Hello and welcome to Making Revenue Tick. I'm delighted to be joined by our good friend of the pod, Mr. David Wilkins. Hello, David.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm good, you?
Very good, thank you.
Good man. So David came on our podcast to tell his career story. And we've had loads of follow-ups since then, and I've got involved in his amazing community, which we'll talk about in just a second. And one of the topics that we spoke about, and we thought we have to turn this into a pod of its own, because it deserves it as a topic, is all about, in fact, David, let me give you the opportunity. Why is the SDR organization broken in 2024? Tell me a bit about this problem we've got.
Yeah, because people are still thinking that the SDR function is the same as it was in 1990s, where you have the yellow pages, you have a desk phone, you have a desktop, and you just call people. That's
Sure.
it.
Make more dials.
Just make more dials. Why not? The phone's not going to call itself, and that concept and that idea is still permeating among real senior leaders in organizations.
Because it's how they did it, right? And it's how it worked when they started.
Yeah. And also the horse and cart used to be a thing, and people used to get around with that.
Well, cool. Well, listen, Henry Ford of the SDR world. Let's talk a bit about the problems then that we're seeing in the market. Yeah. So what I see from my side, and you can validate this and add some rich tapestry to it, is people are shutting down SDR organizations, but because I guess they can't see the ROI. So if we talk about that first, why are businesses in this market, when revenue is everything and we need to generate sales to keep afloat, why are they shutting down SDR organizations?
Because they can't recognize return of investment, and senior leaders are not having the right information being provided to them about the return of investment of a sales development organization. And that's a multifaceted reason why that I can go into more detail if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, we definitely can. Let's maybe cover that as a topic through this conversation, because I think that's a really good one. And we talked about this around what this major title could be, and we said it may be something like how to make your SDRs the ROI engine, because there's a problem, right? What's that problem between SDRs and ROI?
Yes, because at its core, sales development reps don't carry a quota. They don't carry a legal number that they have to close. So how then does a business quantify success or failure of a function if they're not going to have a dollars and cents follow up, or no, not follow up, return of investment? Just use ROI again, and that's really difficult for organizations. And fair enough, it's difficult, but then you've got to work on as an SDR leader, and then who you report to could be VP of sales or VP of marketing. How can they convey it in the business parlance that the senior level of leadership need to understand?
Yeah. Okay. Good man. I like it. So, you're a bit of an expert in this topic, which is obviously why I'm interviewing about it. So let's talk about some of these gaps. So if there are gaps that we need to understand about our SDR organization being able to be demonstrably showing an ROI for the business and a key part of the revenue strategy, go-to-market strategy, and overall organization, give us a bit of an idea around your history. That means that you are someone who's got a bunch of lived experience and real world know-how. That means that this is a problem that you can talk to in great detail. Give us a bit of an idea around how your background connects to this problem.
Yeah, so I've spent most of my career in and around sales development. So I've lived and breathed the role. And then also I progressed within an organization where I carried a quota and knew what it took to actually close those deals that the sales development team were generating. And then I started to be involved on people leadership, and then more on strategic visionary leadership as well. that culminated in when I was at Infoblox running new logo go-to-market strategy for EMEA. And in that role, that was cross-functional, working with our marketing, SDR, sales, partners, product marketing on how we can work together to hit our revenue goal. And that was a real big eye-opener for me about all these different integral pieces and how they all interlock, and how it isn't just one silo of we do X and that will be our ROI. No, everything has to be integrated in one plan to have success.
And what happened after Infoblox?
Yeah, after Infoblox, I went and ran a global sales development organization, a company called Solace, which was very successful, rebuilt the sales development motion there. And then ultimately, I've been at Snowflake, leading their sales development function in EMEA, which was a 60-person behemoth organization of SDRs, driving to this. There's a goal of by 2029, the business in Europe needs to be a $3 billion a year revenue business. So trying to source that pipeline to achieve that goal, that quite meaty goal, means there has to be this very clean alignment between every single function, or it's going to be a miss. So that's my background.
Sure. And then I know that you've quite recently, but it already seems like it's so big that it feels like it's been around forever, but you've created a community. Could you tell everyone who doesn't already know about the SDR leaders of EMEA a bit more about this project?
Yeah, it really came from a walk with my dog Chucky on New Year's Eve. I have the best conversations with him. He's the only one that truly understands me. And one of the big things that we discussed on that I like to think on that walk was leaders in EMEA SDR leaders are alone. They're often first line leaders. They've often just been promoted from a SDR role into a people leadership role. They have sales and marketing leaders who could be demonstrably older and senior and tenured, telling them what's right and what's wrong. They have their line manager 9 hours away on the west coast of the States. They have SDRs who come up with reasons for not wanting to work sometimes, and they need coaching, they need support, and they need mentoring, but they need it within Europe, because how we work in Europe, Middle East and Africa is very different to how we work and coach and lead in the States. So it created this community, and it's great. It's like we've got over 600 members already in a thriving Slack community. We do sessions every 2 weeks on topics that the leaders want to learn about on training and development. And soon we'll be doing some in-person meetups around Europe. So we're really looking forward to that.
Amazing. Well, the man on the pulse of what 600 SDR leaders in EMEA are facing in terms of challenges today feels like exactly the right person to get onto this podcast. So thank you so much. So let's talk about SDR alignment then. What's the problem? So what's the problem aligning SDRs with the functions that are most important that they need to be aligned to?
Yeah, I think it's really four things. It's marketing and SDR alignment. It's SDR sales alignment. It's sales and marketing alignment. Think of it as like a Venn diagram. And then the fourth one is that whole interlocked together. It's very rare to find organizations where each of those functions are aligned on the common goal, which is revenue, creating and closing revenue. And why is that? It's because people have different targets that they need to hit that are very alien from the next function along in the process. It's not aligned to a one goal. Those pressures. And then also it's again a historical, oh, well, marketing has always should only do this, or sales should only do that. And then SDRs are in the middle of being told what to do and what's worked and what hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So those are I see it as the big pressure points for the misalignment.
Okay, makes sense. So and obviously SDRs can report into different departments, right? So we see a load of SDRs reporting into marketing, a load report into sales. There's different ways of doing this. I used to work for a company called EIMS for 12 years. So we basically solved that alignment problem between sales and marketing, which exists in every business.
Yeah.
But it seems in tech it's a huge one because the revenue's so high, remuneration so high. If people are hitting their targets, they feel like they're doing a good job. So if marketing are hitting their targets but sales are really unhappy, well then obviously it's sales hate marketing, but marketing think they're doing a good job, and ultimately someone's going to get the blame. And in an SDR, in a business where they have SDRs, often they could be the ones that actually face the consequence of that blame, because like you say, the function can get cut or the value can be questioned, and that can lead to loads of questionable things around the wrong target's been set, the wrong behavior's been driven, and ultimately the wrong decision's been made, which ultimately hurt everyone, sales and marketing. So let's talk about the marketing side first. What are the alignment problems that you most commonly see between SDRs and marketing? And then after that, how does that compare to the problems they face with sales?
Yeah, so the big thing between marketing and SDRs is that there's about, I use a phrase like, not all leads are equal. So when somebody comes into your database, that lead shouldn't automatically get worked by a human being. Now, why is that? It's because of this kind of the buying journey that people go on. And I was even told this in 2017, 2016, how people don't want to talk to a human until quite near the end of the buying journey. And that was in 2017. And since then, we've had COVID where nobody saw anybody, and people didn't want to see people in real life. So just imagine what it's like now. And so there's there needs to be a certain amount of content and information given to that prospect to educate and inform them before a human being is getting involved and being a little bit more deeper in the content that they're providing, which is what the SDR is. And what can occur quite commonly is we're not hitting our target of amounts of leads to meetings. So let's reduce the lead score that is the threshold for being handed over to a human, because obviously then we'll book more meetings. But it's counterintuitive, because it might be that there needs to be more qualification, there needs to be more content and more information consumed by the prospects before they go, now I get it, now I want to talk to you. And so that's a real issue that always comes up. I was at a company that had for every region they had a lead scoring of 75 before it became a meeting, before it came over to the SDR team to contact. In the region that I was working in, the lead score threshold was 15, because we just need to send more volume. And it's like, well, no, maybe there's a reason why we aren't converting. So that's the first piece.
Okay, makes sense. And what about sales? How does that compare to the alignment challenge with sales?
Between sales and SDRs? Yeah, that's it. It's subjective. It's this meeting was no good. That comes up a lot, and So if you've not got the correct alignment, that is a conversation that happens a lot. Sales teams are under pressure to hit a number. And so if they're not going to hit, if they're feeling like they're not going to hit a number, it's survival mechanism. It's okay, who can I blame for not hitting the target? And an easy out is the meetings I get are not very good. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's an opportunity. It doesn't feel like it was a good meeting.
Yeah.
And that kind of subjectivity, which never works, because if you're trusting your gut and then you're being asked to forecast and you're still trusting your gut, then it's, I got told by my boss once that hope is not a strategy.
Yeah.
And if I ever mentioned, so hope is out of my lexicon right now, I can't say it because I've been like, hope is not a strategy, don't say it. So you've got to be like this, I see too many organizations where they're going, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a real opportunity. I really need another meeting. And that's what happens there.
Okay. So I don't know if there's a right answer to this. If there's going to be a man who would know a better way of answering this than I do, it's you. Should SDRs report into sales or into marketing?
Neither.
Ooh.
They should have their own seats at the table when it comes to the GTM. So why do I say that? So marketing, in a perfect world, it should be a named account model that those are the only accounts that we're going to market to, that we're going to prospect into, and that we're going to try and close business in. Everything else, whatever, not interested. So then it should be, right, marketing, your efforts are going to be really driven towards those accounts, like ABM methods, one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, demand gen, things of that nature. And then the SDR team should be like, right, they're responsible for converting that stuff, and then creating opportunities creating meetings off the back of that conversions. And then the sales team should be responsible then for converting those meetings that were create them into opportunities and then convert it into revenue.
Interesting. And out of curiosity then, how many businesses have that structure? So if that's the ideal, and it makes sense what you've said, how often do you actually see that is the case?
I think it's very rare, because it's because of the lack of true understanding at the C-level about the ROI of the function. So there's a similar theological ideas going on currently about customer success, and it's the same with SDRs as well. How do you quantify it?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we have that come up quite a lot.
Yeah,
because I think and just as the role evolves, right? It used to be you would try and get quite junior people in an SDR function, and then you realize actually if you were trying to do a named account strategy, that first interaction with a named account is your brand talking to someone, and if you get that wrong, that could be really damaging. And CS again used to be, how cheap can we pay to get these people to get the health scores up and make sure we don't churn revenue. But it's now probably worth more, your existing book of business, than your net new acquisition in terms of the value of your business and the strength that you have to go and grow. So yeah, really interesting topic. So let's talk more about that ideal outcome then. So ideal is that SDR, the organization, has a seat at that executive table so that their needs are fully understood. Let's talk a bit more about the ideal state. Paint that picture of how businesses should ideologically build an SDR function that's going to be the ROI engine for their business.
Good question. How should it be built? So let's go back to that named account model. So that should be the performance indicator of the business. How are we converting those accounts to revenue? That's where we see our big bets. That's not our big bets. That's where we see our bets for a successful next 5 years. So how are we how are we getting into those accounts? T-shaped. So it shouldn't just be one meeting moved on. It should be meetings being booked into multiple business units in multiple levels within the organization. So that means that marketing needs to be impacted in that respect of really going deep and wide into it, deep and T-shaped into the account. The SDRs should be focused on getting as many people within that org chart. I've seen organizations where SDRs are only paid on basically one meeting per account, and their comp plan is set up so they're only paid on that one meeting. So after that, they're just going, okay, I'll move on. And then the AE is screaming like, no, I need more meetings in this account because I think there's different opportunities. And the SDR, fair enough, is like, I'm not paid on it. So it should be really, so I really think it's SDR should be measured on that meeting front, but those meetings have to be really well qualified. And there has to be this very deep level of discovery done by the SDR themselves or in those first meetings for that meeting to be approved. But then it has to be objective criteria. So it needs to be current state of in the company. What's their current state? What do they want to move to? What is the real pain that they have? Why are they speaking to us? That's always a big thing. If you ask a prospect, what piques your interest in talking to me, if they just say, yeah, research or education, okay, whatever, they're like, yeah, we have this issue going on right now, and then that's objective. So it's kind of criteria. Now, and then on the sales side, then they need to be held accountable for if we've agreed to all these criteria, they need to be held accountable as well for those criteria being met. And if they've not been met, if things are getting lost in the pipeline, well, then it's either then he needs to go back to the SDRs to try and identify more people within the account, or maybe they just didn't do a very good job in discovery. But it should be you should be disqualifying out at every stage. So if you're starting to get blockages in the pipeline because deals are get to a certain point and they're just left as a holding marker, which we all see in pipeline, that's not the SDR's fault. That's an AE's issue because they took it on and they left it there. They should be disqualifying out. So it needs to be a really clean pipe. We're getting to the point now where it's like there's 4x pipeline coverage needed to close deals, and that's just too much. It needs to be like it shouldn't be 4x of pipeline needed. It needs to be about 2.5. You can't. Anything else is just, it starts to get too much and just wasting your time.
Inefficient.
Yeah.
Interesting. What you're describing sounds much more like how investors would see businesses. So I speak to investors quite regularly, and when businesses are pitching for investment, they kind of do that thing you see on Dragon's Den where they say, this market's worth £1 trillion a year, and the dragons roll their eyes. Yeah. And what investors want to see is, right, who are your customers today? Show me what you've done with them, and then show me who your ideal clients are. What's your universe? Like, what does that look like? What is your ICP? They want to know what you actually have to go after, because saying we're just going to go and put out a load of stuff, and then because there's so much opportunity out there, it's not a strategy, it's hope, right? So having this like ABM strategy where you are going, we're going to put all of our effort, deliberate effort, into making these named accounts our repeat customers. But is this strategy only for enterprise solutions, or does it also work in mid-market, commercial? Where does this strategy fit, and where is it actually not the right solution?
Yeah, good question. So I think it's enterprise, mid-market. I think commercial, SMB, I'll put that in one on bit. I think that's more opportunity. Oh no, that's the wrong word. I think that's more of a, if it's quick sales cycles, smaller deal sizes, it needs to be a lot more transactional, the plays. So it's just a case of just getting out there, just calling whoever. There is a little bit more of that, maybe more vertical specific. So it's like, right, we're only going to focus on financial services in Greece this week or this month. And then the ABM that's happening, it's one to many. So it's going to be financial institutions, marketing done.
Yeah.
That kind of real granular. Yeah, it's more of that kind of enterprise, mid-market is where that kind of focus should be. But it's only a double clicking into the overall piece, which is you shouldn't be marketing to everybody. That's not going to work. You're not going to satisfy anyone. So what are those? So what's the problem that your solution is going to solve? And then who's that? Where's that? What vertical is that problem most prevalent? Who are those people who need this help to solve this pain?
Yeah.
And then that should be the level. Vertical seniority, messaging, that should be really what you should be focusing on.
Yeah. Interesting. Makes sense. Because I think that when I worked in an agency. So we had an SDR organization, 4 business units around the world, sort of anywhere from 50 to 100 SDRs in each business unit. So, and because we were an agency, we had to price everything, right? So it was all about ROI. And if a client came to us and they had an average deal size less than, say, 20k pounds, you couldn't get the ROI to work. It just didn't make sense with the meeting numbers that you could book, that you could show an ROI. So whenever someone had like a, sub 20k average deal size, often what we would prescribe would be inside sales, actually having people closing business on the phone, because there's much less people involved in the decision. It's below thresholds that don't require so much sign off. Legal don't have to get involved. So we're talking here about decent enough deal sizes that mean that actually having a team of people who are going to be humans, who are going to be working on those opportunities to drive relationships for your account executives to go and close becomes worth it. Is there a click point? So I've talked about a 20k number. In your experience, what are they things that make the threshold SDR is the relevant solution?
It's like 50,000 ARR, those kind of deal sizes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that goes into it as well. There's like, you want to look at cost per meeting booked as well. That was something that we used to look at Infoblox is, okay, how much does it cost for a meeting to be booked by an SDR? So that's how we were really able to show value of the function. Is like, look, each SDR is going to get, each meeting costs the business €500. So so we were able to get to that level of granularity. Yeah, I think that $50,000 is that break even point where then you can have a dedicated SDR function. Anything else, it's like ISR, full cycle, product led growth. I really think product led growth is, again, people don't want to talk to humans. Some don't, and you just have a product led growth motion for a 10k, 5k deal where they can just buy it on the company credit card, self-service, that where it doesn't need, where they just can sign it, just it's on the credit card threshold. That should be PLG.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Beautiful answer. Cool. And then so let's talk about the cost and impact. So what are the effects on the overall revenue outcomes that a business has and their ability to grow of not having this alignment in the right place?
So I was speaking to a colleague, an old colleague, and he said that he's doing some, he's working for a company, and they're saying that the company has invested £1 million in marketing last year, and they can't show any return of investment. And I was like, why not? And he said, because any warm lead that comes in gets handed straight to the AEs, and they call them once, and then they don't pick up, and then they have to go and close a deal. So what I'm trying to say with that is there's this there is still huge gaps going on where money is spent on stuff and then they do something and then they don't show return of investment on it. So it still happens. So then what's the cost of that? So if you don't have this function, an SDR, again, because SDRs don't have carry quota, you can't put a revenue goal to it. It's an easy line item on a spreadsheet to say, well, we can save $80,000, $100,000 by removing that resource because they're not generating any revenue. But if you're doing the right build-up of a function, you should be looking at a bottoms-up approach. So it should be, okay, how much revenue do we need to generate next year? Because the average sales cycle for an SDR generated opportunity is like 6 to 9 months. So anything that happens this year is not going to matter. What's our goal for next year? And then, so it's like this you start the bottoms up, and then it's like, okay, well, what contribution currently is the SDR to revenue? And then you start to look at it that way, like, okay, well, we need to generate this amount of opportunities at this stage, or these deals closed, then at this stage and at this stage. And then we need this amount of meetings per opportunity generated. And then you can start, and then you create this funnel metrics, but then you can start to say, right, each SDR is going to generate $1 million of pipeline and 3 closed deals next year. And that's what you need to get to. And if you don't have it like that kind of level, like I know, so I can say to my CFO, give me 1 more head count and we'll generate 2 more deals next year. And if you can't get to that point, then that's the gap, and that's what you need to fill in.
It's interesting. It's also interesting how often we get asked to go and find AEs who are prospectors and hunters, because there's a revenue target to hit this year, and they think if they can get someone in who can generate pipe and then close it, then they're going to be successful. But not only are those salespeople quite hard to find, it's literally what you've said is, if you invest into this function, you will create a bunch of demand, which will turn into revenue next year. So it's thinking about an SDR. It's not a reactive thing. It's not like, right, we need stuff now. We need to go and fire sale, get some revenue on the board. This is, if we're going to have a brilliant 2025, now is the time to be speaking to someone like you, to build our SDR organization, because we know that if we do the right things now, it's like going to the gym. You're not going to get a 6-pack overnight, but by 2025, you might be ready for the beach.
Touch wood.
Okay, cool. I love it. So we talked about ABM strategy. I think there's going to be a bunch of people watching this who either have an ABM strategy and it might not be working as well as it did before, or they might have tried it and it didn't work and then they've stopped, or they might be thinking about applying it but they don't know where to start. So just talk to us a bit about, why is an ABM strategy so important, and how do we get this set up in the right way?
Yeah, why is it so important? So we mentioned it a little bit earlier about the need for focus. And if you have a pot of money and you spread it amongst your total addressable market of 500, I've got 500 accounts in my TAM in the UK, and I'm going to spread all of my marketing budget on that. It's very unlikely that you'll see any return of investment, because maybe the one person that maybe sees that content might be the wrong person, might be having a bad day and just gets rid of it, or is best friends with a competitor. It doesn't work. So you need to go, okay, what are, in 2025, what are the accounts that are going to help us book $1 million of revenue in the next 2 to 3 years? And then what are those accounts? And so that's not just a sales piece, that's an operations piece. It's like looking at the data. Okay, so then what are you looking at the data there? You're looking at revenue of that company. You're looking at growth. You're looking at business units. You're looking at reach and you're looking at those kind of demographic, firmographic data points, so that you then produce this list of accounts, ops do, which goes to leadership, sales, and marketing, where they go, yeah, and they do that sanity check, because there's always that, you always see where, for example, Npower, there's an Npower entity, I don't know if is it called Npower still? In
I know the name, but I've not heard it for a while, so you've made me question myself.
So this is what happens when you don't live in the Netherlands, don't live in the UK for 16 years. All these brands disappear. I got told that Paper Chase has disappeared as well.
Yeah. I mean, these are all shops I've not shopped at for years, so yeah, it would make sense.
Let me continue. Show my age. So you have like an account that's in the UK, but actually the real entity is in Germany, and so you need to get that sanity check of removing it from the account list in the UK. And then you give it to the sales teams as well, and they'll go like, just to get their say. So then you've got these account lists that everybody's aligned to. And then marketing starts to go into those accounts. And it's, again, if you had 500 TAM, you only really want to be targeting about 20 or 30 accounts, max 40. And then putting all of those marketing dollars into those 40 accounts. Creating awareness and education. So if anything else comes out of that, of the rest of the 450 accounts, great, but that goes to a product-led growth inside sales motion. Because these 50 accounts, we believe that each of them are going to generate a couple of million in the next couple of years. And then how do you do that? It's like one-to-one messaging. So I'm going to send marketing directly to Rich, and I'm just going to send it directly to him and create a landing page for him to go and consume content. Or I'm going to do one-to-few. So maybe for Tick Talent, I'm just going to send content to Tick Talent. Or one-to-many, which is I'm going to send it to him content around recruitment on the recruitment side. And you're not going to get business straight away, because what you're doing is that you're warming up this market. You're creating awareness. You're educating the market. And then they're slowly going to consume more and more content as your ABM strategy continues. So it gets to the point where they trigger and they send a contact request, or it triggers, and then the SDR function can go and follow up and go even deeper, really specific messaging to that person that triggers engagement. So that's how it should work, an ABM strategy, completely aligned between ops, sales, marketing, SDR, leadership. There you go.
Okay, I love it. Beautiful. You've touched on probably my favorite subject, which is the hiring side and getting that part right. Massively passionate subject area for me, just because I worked in a business that we had SDRs, we had ISRs, we had AEs. Our job was to recruit them and get them ramped really quickly within a couple of weeks to be on target for our client campaign. So we did that across the UK, Barcelona, Auckland, and Miami, all around the world. So we developed really good systems around how to do that. But I'd love to get your steer, someone who's managed very successful SDR organizations and grown them to 60 people strong as a third line manager. Talk to us a bit about getting SDR hiring and onboarding right, what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think it's about the data I saw last was about every hiring mistake that you make, it costs about $15,000. And that's on people hours, adverts, terminating. It costs money every time that you make a bad hire. And I have made plenty of bad hires. I am not perfect. And I'm very open about it. Like, I make mistakes and it happens and it's human. There's only certain things, but I've had more hits than misses. And I'm very proud of being able to say I've been responsible, my teams have been responsible for the promotion of about 30 to 35 SDRs into management, closing roles, channel roles. So I'm very proud of that record. But so how do you do it? The ramping of an SDR begins at the interview process, where you need to do pressure and stress tests during that interview process. So what do I mean? It's doing cold call role plays, and it's doing use case role plays, and I'll explain what those are. So you're asking a candidate to pretend to do a cold call, and you're not asking that person for it to be perfect. Far from it. If it's perfect, then there's a problem. Like, why is this person getting it completely correct? You're wanting to understand, okay, can they handle the pressure of being in front of this bloke, this lady who's responsible for their career, of joining the business? Can they handle that? But then can they also handle the feedback that they'll get? And can they take that feedback on? Because that's what you see. Sometimes you see somebody you do a role play with them, and you think they're listening to you, and then they do exactly the same thing. And it's like, okay, well, they're obviously their understanding and coachability is not there. And then the other piece around the use case, again, you're going to say, so for example, hey, Rich, I want you to do one slide on why SDR leaders of EMEA would be a perfect fit for TIC talent. And so you'd go on the company website, you just like put a couple of things together. And again, you're trying to understand comprehension, presentation. Will they do it? That's another one.
Sure.
And then ultimately then you're doing a scorecard, and you're picking a few pieces that are really important to you for the role. So coachability, performing under pressure, communication style, and and then you weight it. Okay, what's really important, and then you're scoring people all through the interview process.
Sure.
So that by the time you hire that person, you know, okay, these are their strengths, these are areas that you need to work on. If you don't hire them, you can give them very good feedback about, hey, look, this is why you weren't successful this time, and give them that feedback. And then you can use that scorecard then for the onboarding process, so that then you know what to focus on or what not to focus on during that onboarding month that you have to determine if they're going to be successful or not.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. And I love that you talked about onboarding. I did a post on LinkedIn, one of my very first ever posts, and it was like, when does the onboarding process end? Yeah. And it's, for me, in our old business, it was they had to be independently successful in their role. So we had targets to achieve, and it was that they demonstrated they can consistently hit that target. And that was usually over a 4-week period, every week, on target against that result. And we had to try and do that within 3 months. And we had like a 92% success rate of achieving it. So you have to measure it. What, in your experience, are the building blocks of a successful onboarding program?
Yeah. I think you should start everybody on the first day of the month, and it's 4 weeks, because normally in EMEA, in Europe, if you sign somebody to a permanent contract, you normally have about a 2-month probation period. Or if you've signed them to a fixed term contract of a year, you have a month probation period. And then if you want to exit somebody after that time, it's very costly, very time consuming. So you've only got 30 to 60 days to really understand if this person's going to be successful for the business. So you want to, what are the core things for the job? The core things for the job is, can they make calls? Can they write well? Can they do videos well? And can they understand use cases of the solution? So I've been in organizations where the SDRs had to learn 240 different combinations of use case vertical messaging. And they said, yeah, our SDRs are only really get on the phone after about 3 months. And I said, yeah, I normally get my SDRs on the phone like after 5 days.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? So what's the main use case that you want to sell? Times 4. over the course of those 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And so then each week is cold calling, email, social use, and wrapped into a use case. And so it's like this theory, role play, live. I want people calling on that first week, because again, you just need to try. You just need to figure it out. And if you've done that role play and it's not a disaster, then get them on the phone to see what happens. And then there's a kind of, at the end of the month, there's a little test, and to make sure that the learning that they've taken on board has actually been reinforced and is applied. And then so at the end of that, you see that every week for 4 weeks, and then at the end you have this kind of certified person completing their onboarding. They can put it on LinkedIn. They've passed the academy. But then you've got this, you've got, by that 4 weeks, you've got this understanding of like, okay, they've made some calls. What's it like, their demeanor, their performance. They've understood the use cases and the value propositions. They can write well. They can send videos on LinkedIn. And then they graduate and they pass their probation. So I think it's that kind of, it's a very intense 4 weeks, but it's, you've understood then because you've got the scorecard as well. You're not doing that fumbling around at the start, where the strengths and where the development areas are.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love it. I remember getting trained by clients and we would have like boot camp days or 2 days. And, you knew you were in trouble if the client turned up with like a 95 slide presentation of their product.
Yes.
You're like, look, I need to know the questions to ask. I need to know the pains. I need to know the benefits. But I just need to start trying, because application is the bridge between knowledge and skill.
Yeah.
And if you don't apply the knowledge that you've got, you'll never turn it into a skill, and you'll be one of these people that's filled with knowledge. And then, like you say, imagine learning for 3 months something, and then someone goes, right, cool, have your first conversation. By the way, you need to get their attention in the first 3 seconds, and then you've got 30 seconds, otherwise they're going to hang up on you. Where would you start? So you have to start quickly and then build, because actually it's a really hard job, and you're calling people who not everyone's going to want to go, oh, fantastic, I've been looking forward to your call. There's a load of resistance you need to build. There's a load of skill to it. There's a real art to it. And that takes confidence. And if you don't get someone to get exposed quickly, then the fear will turn into inaction, which will turn into failure.
Yeah. And I think the big thing as well is a lot of SDRs are trying to hire or want to move into closing roles.
100%.
And the big thing about being on a call where you're trying to pitch is somebody's going to throw an objection to you, like, yeah, sorry, it's just too expensive, or yeah, you're the same as that company, aren't you? Yeah. And if you don't have that muscle of being able to handle objections in real time to a person, if you can't do that as an SDR, there is not a cat's in hell chance you're going to do it as a closer, and you're going to fail, and you're going to get fired. And this is what I try and explain to SDRs who are like, I want to move into their next role, is the SDR function is it's a safety net. Once you go out of it, that's it. You can be fired for non-performance in 3 months. That's it. Like, and really trying to explain that to people is big.
Absolutely. I remember when I went onto your newsletter, and I talked about how the building blocks that I'd learned as an SDR, all those skills around the science of communication, questioning, being able to learn a value proposition, listening, everything, the structure of sales, the psychology, just the activity of actually going and doing outbound, learning inbound, all these things, they're the building blocks that set you up for the whole of the rest of your career. Yeah. And I think there's no better place to learn. But it's something you said really interesting, and this is what I would advocate. Anyone that's looking to build an SDR organization, like Dave has said exactly right, is we need to stress test them during the interview. Yeah. But where most people go wrong, and you can tell me if you're aligned with this, Dave, is they take SDRs through the same recruitment process they do for all other roles. So these people don't come with years of experience.
Yeah.
And you're not hiring them because they have this amazing track record. Often you're hiring them because they have coachability, because they have personality, they can articulate well, they've got that punch, fire, heart, stuff that means they're a great person that
Yeah.
you can mold and that you can help to grow. And they've got that deep level of ambition and desire to grow, because it's not an easy role to start in. So in my experience, what works really well, and this is the process that we would always encourage clients to go for, rather than going out and doing a classic recruitment process where you put an advert live, attract a load of people, and then take them through the classic kind of HR interview around why they want to work there, what they know about your company, is what we do is invite people to an event. And in the event, you'll have the leaders of that business. It could be the founder, it could be the CRO, definitely the SDR leaders within that business, some SDRs, maybe some AEs together. And you talk about where the business is trying to go. I remember when I went to a recruitment presentation in EIMS back in 2007, and I sat in a room with about 12 other people, and they told us about, we're a UK business, we're just about to open an office in Spain. Our plan is to open an office in Asia, and then we're going to open in America. In that meeting, I decided that I wanted to go and open that American office.
Yeah.
There was no other company that I was going to go and look for, because everyone else was trying to take me through a normal interview process. This company was telling me about where they're trying to go. I knew from that moment that I wanted to join, and we heard that so many times. People want to join a business at that stage of their career where they're going to learn, and they're going to have the opportunity to grow, and they're going to have fun. And if you can sell to people up front, then absolutely, once you've done that, you'll put off some people because they won't be excited by where you're trying to go. But then you can flip the psychology and then pressure test people, because they have to not only want the job, but be capable of doing the job. And I think that most organizations get the selling part wrong. They miss it, and they start immediately trying to qualify people with psych tests and assessments and role plays when they don't even know they really want the job yet.
Yeah.
How does that stack up to your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I had someone who I really look up to. His name is Russ Hell. He was my leader when I was an SDR at a company called Double Dutch, and he set up that exact what as he just said. We had everybody in the room on a Saturday morning. So there you go, Saturday morning. You go there, and they gave the vision, and I was like, and then it was individual. You had interviews with different people, and I think I was the only one that got the job in that room that day. And yeah, I think you need to sell the vision. You need to it's like as you're closing a deal, you need to sell the vision about where you're going, where the product's going to go.
Yeah.
And there was one thing you mentioned a bit earlier about a non-standard interview process. At previous companies, I've had to say, this is the profile we're hiring for. This is where we're going to have the success. Because I would have he hasn't got any experience. I'm like, that, yeah, correct, well done. But it's that, but I then had to get to the point I'm taking the risk. I am taking the risk on behalf of the business for hiring this person. I'm responsible for the coaching, the enablement, the productivity. I just need you, who's interviewing this person, to say, tick off these things. And again, it's very objective. That I used to have to do that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, exactly like you say, an SDR who would be the first person that speaks to an enterprise account is the first interaction. If you have a inexperienced recruiter as the first interaction point with a candidate, and they can't articulate the value of the business or the vision of the business, and they are just interrogating people straight away, you're probably even going to lose some of those really interesting people. So I definitely think that's a selling part. And what you've said about going on Saturday, I can totally see that working in the 90s, right? But if you ask people to do it now, they might tell you no, I'm not really that interested. We've got a way of doing that on a 1 hour Zoom call, or ideally in your office, which is much cool. Even maybe bring some champagne and make it really fun. But there's a way of doing that more efficiently. But the psychology is exactly what you've said, which I love. So we're totally aligned. And I would love to know that if I was going to be bringing talent into a business to learn about an organization, that they were taking the sort of care that you've taken in the way you've described it to create an environment to be successful.
Yeah.
We're going to properly enable you. We're going to give you scores. You're going to be on the phone. You're going to learn about videoing. You're going to learn about copywriting. You're going to learn about being communication. Oh, what a dream that would be to sell. So Absolutely love that. So Dave, so let's say that let's finish this off now, because I'm conscious of your time. If let's say I'm a revenue leader or a founder in a tech startup looking to scale, and I want to get your knowledge in my business, obviously I can listen to this podcast, but if I wanted to speak to you, what's the best way that I can get someone like you to help me to get my SDR organization driving ROI in the way that I know it can?
Yeah, drop me a message on LinkedIn. This is something that I do is I get a lot of passion and from myself and a lot of energy from making impacts at organizations by setting this up and being able to create this process. Is something I love to do. And yeah, I'm available. Just drop me a message on LinkedIn and I'm happy to assist.
Amazing. And let's say that I wanted to bring you into my business, but I wanted to know if it was the right thing. Is there like a way that I can get you to come into my business and help me to actually design what I need and work out what I actually need as a solution? Because I might not know that right now. I might have a problem that I'm trying to solve, but I actually don't know how to go and get started. So do you have smaller, less risky ways to get your time to help me?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a workshop where we'll get sales, marketing, channel leaders, individual contributors throughout the day, understanding nuts and bolts, what's going on in the process. And then what I do is I provide an audit of where its current state is and where it needs to go. And then I'll give options of good, better, best of what you can do to make that make those changes. And that's the big thing I hear from founders and from leaders is selling the stuff is easy, quote unquote, but getting those people to buy the stuff, that's the tough part, and it all comes by creating a process.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. And I know you're busy, right? You're running this whole community. You've got 600 members. You're doing a bunch of consulting and fractional work. How many of these workshops do you run a month if I want to go and grab some of that time?
Yes, run about 2, maximum of 3 a month. And I'm quite busy until about end of April now. Yeah, it's going quite well. So yeah, if people want to get in touch, we can, and we'll sort it out to come in end of April, May.
Good man, perfect. So obviously we're recording this at a specific point in time, so that's typically like maybe a month ahead of time, right? If you want to go and get Dave's.
Yeah,
okay, perfect.
And then I'm all yours.
Good man. Well, I'm sure people will take you up on that offer. David, thank you so much for giving up your time. I've learned some things, and I really hope that people will too. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I hope we can do another one very soon.
Yeah, hope so too. Thanks ever so much.
Good man. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.